Yo, it's your boy Smoke with another Madden video. Today's video we'll be grading every NFL rookie taken in the first round based off the first 6 weeks. Now we are around the halfway point of the season. We're getting pretty close, we're just about there. So we're gonna go ahead and grade how every rookie has been. Obviously, this isn't for their whole rest of their career. I mean, for some of them it has been, but some players take a little bit longer to reach their potential, and it's going to take much more than just 6 games. And these players are very young and have a lot of room for potential. So I just want to get that out of the way before we get to the grading. All right. Now, Caleb Williams was the first overall pick, and we have him as a B plus. He's been pretty good, but I wouldn't say he's been lights out, but still good. I mean, 1,317 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and an 88.7 passer rating. And he just had his best week this previous week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. To Jaden Daniels, we have him as an A plus. He's been phenomenal. I mean, 1,404 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Only 2 interceptions as a rookie in his first 6 games, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Drake May really hasn't played enough for me to put him anything higher than a C. Anyone who really hasn't played is going to be a C, obviously. A neutral grade. You haven't proved anything, but it's also not your fault you haven't proved anything. So that's why they're just sticking at a C. But Drake May, I mean, he didn't look all that bad against the Texans. And then Marvin Harrison, he's at a C as well. He did have one good game against the Rams, but other than that, really not much on the season with 279 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns, and he has 17 receptions on the year. Joe Alt, an A+. Joe Alt has been absolutely lights out. I mean, 2 sacks allowed on the year, which, isn't great, but he only has 1 penalty. His PFF grade is 72.4, which is good. And the biggest thing that I believe Joe Alt has already done in his career is he held his own against Max Crosby. I mean, the first game of the year, it was Joe Alt versus Max Crosby, and Max Crosby was pretty quiet during that game because he was facing Joe Alt, and I feel that's very impressive for an rookie offensive tackle to do. Malik Neighbors, we have him as a B plus, so he would be a lot higher if he didn't miss 2 games, but injury that could affect you, especially down the road, could affect you. So he would be a lot higher, but he's been one of the best rookies if you take away the injury. I mean, for sure. 35 receptions, 386 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. J.C. Latham, the Titans tackle that they drafted, he's been pretty solid as well. Only allowing 1 sack and 3 QB hits. He does have 2 penalties, which is a little bit, but it is all right. I mean, you're a rookie. You're going to learn. You're definitely going to be taking penalties your rookie year. Michael Penix, he hasn't played yet, so C. Romeo Odunze, C+. I mean, he really hasn't been great. I mean, he's been okay. Hasn't got a lot of opportunity, so it's not really his fault. But 17 receptions on the year, 246 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. J.J. McCarthy hasn't played, so that's a C. Now, the Jets offensive tackle, this guy's name is crazy. I don't even really know how to pronounce it, but I'm going to just say Ol Fashanu. That is how I'm going to say it. But anyway, he's been okay. He hasn't played a whole lot. Only 160 snaps played. He does have 1 penalty. And his PFF grade is a 49, which is, if it's anything below 50, that's not really ideal. So, Bo Nix giving him the grade of a B minus. Quarterback coming into Denver. He had a really good preseason. On the year, he has 1,246 rushing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Brock Bowers with an A+. Now, I feel like this is very deserving for Brock Bowers. 37 receptions on the year, 384 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and an PFF grade of 85.2. Now, I know those aren't really eye-popping numbers, but you got to keep in mind he is a tight end and he has those numbers. He's not a receiver with those numbers. He is a tight end, and he leads all tight ends in most targets, most receptions, and most receiving yards in the NFL for all tight ends. And then we got Talise Fuaga, the tackle for the New Orleans Saints. He is a very good run blocker. He has a 64 PFF grade against run block. He has allowed 4 sacks, which is quite a bit, but I will say the best part about his game is the run block. Now we are finally starting to get into the draft where some defensive players are starting to go. So Jared Verse and Lotto, as you see right there, number 15, Lotto, B+. The Indianapolis Colts took him, and he's actually not been too bad. 8 solo tacks, 1 sack on the year, 2 assistant tackles, 2 forced fumbles. I mean, 2 forced fumbles on your first 6 games. That's really good. He has 13 quarterback pressures. 16, Byron Murphy. Murphy hasn't played a whole lot, but he still has 7 QB pressures, 1 sack, 4 solo tackles on only 90 snaps. And then 17, Dallas Turner. His team is winning. The Vikings are winning, but he hasn't done a whole lot. A C+ rating with 3 solo tackles, 1 sack, 3 assistant tackles, and 3 pressures. He's only had 77 snaps on the field, though. Amarius Mims, a C-. Very smart idea for the Bengals to go and try to get a nice offensive tackle in the first round, but so far it's not really looking that great. I mean, he's been okay, 206 snaps played, 1 sack allowed. Not really that much to say about him so far in the first 6 games. Jared Verse, I'm going to go ahead and give him a B. Now, he has a 79.1 overall PFF grade, 13 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble. He has over 20 pressures, which is very impressive. Over 20 pressures in his first 6 games is very nice. Now that we do finally have some defense talked about from the draft, you will see it a little bit more. But starting off, number 20 overall selection, Troy Fontino. He's a Steelers offensive tackle, and we haven't seen much from him at all. Only 55 snaps, and he has a PFF grade of 64.3. So, Chop Robinson, the Miami Dolphins took Chop Robinson. He has played 131 snaps, 7 QB hurries, not a whole lot, 4 solo tackles. So, he hasn't done a whole lot. I gave him a C. Quinyon Mitchell actually hasn't been too bad. 19 solo tackles. He's allowed 15 receptions so far this year, and he has 6 pass breakups. 6 pass breakups in the first 6 games. I feel like that's really solid. Brian Thomas Jr. has been an absolute steal for the Jacksonville Jaguars so far. Brian Thomas Jr. has been playing really good. He has 25 receptions, 424 yards, and 3 passing touchdowns. He's mainly an A from the spot where they drafted him, considering he has close numbers to Marvin Harrison, who was drafted in the top 5 picks. And Marvin Harrison's technically a C because he really only had 1 good game. Well, Brian Thomason was taking a lot of picks later, and he's producing, at least so far in the first 6 games, producing similar numbers. Now we're on to Ronald Arnold. He's only allowed 19 receptions, 3 pass breakups, and 14 tackles. He's good to see. I mean, he hasn't done a whole lot, but it's not like he's been horrible. Now we are in the deep end of the draft, so we're going to go ahead and group them together. The center right there, Graham Barton, and the quarterback, Nate Wiggins, right there. So we're starting off with the 25th overall pick, of course, Jordan Morgan. He was a Packer, and he gets a C+. He's been all right, but he hasn't played a whole lot, so not a big sample size, only 86 snaps. But he did only let 2 pressures allowed in those 86 snaps, so I don't feel like that's too bad. Now, Graham Barton, he gets an A. I feel like this is really good value for how late in the first round the Buccaneers got him. He has 208 snaps, 3 penalties, so the penalties is a little much, but he's only allowed 1 sack. I mean, he's been pretty solid. Darius Robinson, he hasn't played yet, and I think he's having some off-the-field issues. I think his mother passed away, if I remember that correctly, so hopefully he is doing well because that is very sad. Xavier Worthy gets a C. He hasn't been involved enough. I mean, people were expecting him to get involved a lot. People are saying, oh, Mahomes has found as another Tyreek Hill. And you see with the Rashid Rice injury, after that you would expect Xavier Worthy to get more production and more targets, more receptions, but no, he just simply hasn't been. So he's a C. He's only had 19 targets. He has 2 receiving touchdowns. He does have 2 rushing touchdowns, though, and he only has 179 yards. Tyler Gutton, that's a D because he has been actually really bad. I mean, 292 snaps, 8 penalties, 4 sacks allowed, 13 pressures allowed. Now we're on to the last 3 picks of the first round, And obviously, going to give these guys a little bit of leeway since they were taken in the back end. Nate Wiggins, he's a C+. He hasn't done a whole lot, but he does have 9 solo tackles and 1 forced fumble. Ricky Pearsall, he hasn't played yet. Obviously, he he was a victim of a gunshot. So hopefully he's feeling better and he can recover fine. And, it's sad. And then Xavier Leggett, he is a C+. He has 174 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. So he almost has as much receiving yards as Xavier Worthy, which is pretty crazy. So that's why he's a C+ and not just a C. But anyway, that's around the end of the video. Make sure you guys go ahead and leave a like and subscribe for more content. Comment down below what you guys think of the grading, what you would do differently, what you agree with, stuff like that. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. And again, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and turn those post notifications on. Bye.